Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to, I have a tendency to speak in threes, so this entire presentation will be on threes, the number three. And we begin with the third connected era, since this is about the third connected era. So what in the world is the third connected era? And what was the first and what was the second connected era? So we have been connected, and the internet has been around since the late 1960s. And prior to that, or after that, there were things like, for those of you who remember, Prodigy, CompuServe, America Online. But the real first connected age began in 1989. And in 1989, when Tim Berners-Lee came up with what was the World Wide Web, a graphical user interface, and our friends Mark and Rishad at the University of Illinois in Champaign developed the Mosaic browser, we had the first connected age, 1989. And initially, what you connected to was information. And for those of you who remember Yahoo, there was this gray page, blue links, you clicked on some place and you went somewhere. And what you went to was information or occasionally a cat gif, okay? Because in those days, even at 28 and 56 KB, you would wait for the cat to appear. And Yahoo tried to organize that in a librarian methodology, and that's what they would call yet another hierarchical organizing or something. And two gentlemen at Stanford were dropping out from their PhD program. While they were studying their PhD papers, began to recognize that often the same papers were cited again and again in the papers they read. And so they thought, could it be that instead of a librarian, we write an algorithm? And the page that many pages are pointing to is the page that people actually want, which is what a librarian decides people want. That was called PageRank. Larry Page, Sergey Brin. Another gentleman around the same time said, why is it that the only thing we get on the other side is information? Can we do something else? So he said, maybe I can sell something, like how about books? And so he went to Seattle and started a company called Amazon. And the first connected age, which went from 1989 to 2007, you were connected to information and you were connected to transactions. The company that best monetized information in the Western world outside of China was Google. The one that best monetized transaction was Amazon. Second connected age, 2007. Two things begin to happen. Mobile phones, so now we're connected all the time, and social networks. We're connected to everybody. So second connected age, building on the first connected age, we're no longer only connected to information and transaction, but we're connected to everybody and all the time. A company that best monetized the phone was Apple. A company that best monetized social in the West was Facebook. Those are 4 of 5 or 6 most valuable companies in the Western world. After 2007, as a secondary effect, new companies were born that no one anticipated. Uber, Airbnb. Those companies could not have existed without the second connected age. You can't call an Uber without your phone. It's hard. You won't check out an Airbnb unless someone reviews it. So you need peer-to-peer review. And now we're entering the third connected age. The third connected age will have 4 forms of connection. And by the way, these build on each other, so it's not like one goes away. The first one is data connecting to data, which is what machine learning is, which is what a form of AI is. So for instance, 70% of the time when you select a movie or TV show on Netflix, it comes from the recommendation. That recommendation knows what you want better than you yourself do. 35% of all sales on Amazon comes after you make a purchase and they say, people like purchase this, purchase that. Simple form of machine learning. Things connecting to things, which is the Internet of Things. New ways of connecting, of which voice is the first big one. And much faster ways of connecting, which will probably happen next year, which is 5G. So those are the 4 new forms of the third connected age. And there'll be completely new companies and new industries that we do not perceive that will be built on that. And all of those things have created amazing wealth and amazing opportunity. They have also, however, created some problems. And we need to face those problems both as individuals and an industry. Otherwise, we're going to have ourselves a really tough time. And the three big problems that have been created is what people actually are feeling. And people feel these things and machines don't feel. So the first one, there is a rise in inequality all over the world. The 13 richest people in the world are worth what the 3.5 billion people are worth. So if you kill the top 13, half the world's population doubles their income. That's a very revolutionary thought when you think about it. A second one is polarization. And polarization is that we will refuse to acknowledge or talk about anything else. How the hell could you vote for Trump? How the hell could you vote for Clinton? How dare you believe this, right? And as a result, we've stopped talking to each other, so there's polarization. Technology feeds polarization. If I look at my Google page, your Google page, and someone else's Google page, as far as people are concerned, we're living in three completely different worlds. And the most important thing, which is very, very critical, but because we're in the brand building business, is the loss of trust. And the issue with the loss of trust isn't just that, okay, clients don't trust agencies. That's fine. It's not fine, but that's not the only problem. You can get rid of the agencies, which is perfectly fine, right? And we'll go get jobs somewhere else. But that's not the big issue. The big issue is nobody knows who to trust at all. You have a president who says everything is fake news. People make up stuff. We come up with delusional things. We are anti-science. And my stuff is, okay, you can be anti-science, but if so, I'd be very happy that you should not ever go to a hospital when you get sick, use electricity, or use filtered water. Right? So either science exists or it doesn't exist. Facts exist or they don't exist. Reality exists or they don't exist. And what tends to happen is when people talk about data, whoever told you data was truth? Because if data was truth, in the most data-driven age, we don't trust anything. Right? And we hide behind data. So this is the really big challenge. And so I'm going to flip it over from a personal and people perspective, what the real interesting challenges are in these things. So the first is, I believe we are making a very big mistake when we think about consumers. I think the reason this industry, the advertising, marketing, and brand building industry is going to hell in a handbasket is we've completely lost the plot. Let me explain to you why focusing on consumers doesn't make sense. A consumer is not the only thing you do. Because if that's the only thing you do, explain if you are a mother or father, what that is in a consumer. When you go to vote, what that is, right? And what we've defined everybody is as a consumer. I don't actually define myself as a consumer. And a brand looks at me through the lens of their brand. The problem is, I don't define myself by your brand. And I don't have a relationship with your brand. Only brand managers want to have relationships with their brands, right? I basically say, listen, I want my headache to go away, Tylenol, I don't have a relationship with you. And I definitely don't want to have a relationship with you because you actually think and you monitor my value based on my net present value. Think about all the relationships you have. At the moment their net present value goes down, you kick them out. You wouldn't have children. Right? And we say consumer, consumer, consumer. Now look at this amazing, marvelous company. It's one of our biggest clients, Procter & Gamble. They know a lot about marketing. They're really smart. And you would say, okay, they know consumers because they've got so much data about lots of things. Of course they do. But what's the common thing across every Procter & Gamble product? Dirt removal. They're a dirt removal company. They remove dirt from your teeth, from your butt, from your house. You define yourself by your dirt removal habits? Is that what makes you a human, dirt removal? That's the issue. We have to sort of recognize that we are talking about people and citizens. And because we have optimized everything for consumers, which includes the major platforms that have been weaponized, and it's our money, it's the advertising money that has weaponized them. And an advertising ecosystem has basically become a society ecosystem. So what we created for advertising is being leveraged by society. When you have someone who basically says, I will make money from fake advertising, which is what Facebook just said. Explain to me how you can go to a client and say brands are trust marks. Right? And that is extraordinarily what we basically have, which is we're all living in a complete fantasy world and thinking that this is the way forward. And so one of the key things that I go to boards in my whole stuff is, marketing is so important, you gotta take it away from the CMO. Over and out. And that's the way, by the way, many CMOs are disappearing, if you notice. Not because of me, but because I can't get rid of my clients, they can get rid of me. But here's the big issue. Fundamentally, every major platform, which are partners and friends of ours, and friends with all of them, basically do the following thing. They own the marketplace, they own the data, they own the discovery, and they own the consumer relationship. They also have marketers bid against each other, so all the margin gets transferred. However, they show you a dashboard where everything is very cool. And if everything was cool, how come most clients are not growing? It's like you're in a hospital, you look at a monitor, the monitor says you're healthy, you're feeling weak, the doctor is growing fat. Has anybody thought about that? When I basically hear we don't have any options, my whole stuff is all the years when there was Time Warner and Condé Nast and Hearst and everything else, our clients had options. They could switch money from one to the other. You can't switch because you basically don't have a duopoly or a tripoly. That's nonsense. Understand what you got. You got a monopoly of information called Google, a monopoly of connection called Facebook, a monopoly of transaction called Amazon. People don't move money from one to the other. I haven't seen that happening. They move money from everything else to this, and these people take the money. And so what basically happens is, I'm basically saying is, hey, listen, your marketing will be fine, but your entire brand and your entire company will be gone. So when people basically say, agencies suck, and we're dinosaurs, I basically say, yes, we suck, but we're cockroaches. We scurry around, and I've been doing this unfortunately for 37 years, and we are supposed to have died many years ago, again and again and again, but most of those companies don't exist and we move on. My biggest problem is not that we suck and we'll disappear, because who the hell cares about us because we're cockroaches? You know who I care about? Our clients. Because if they don't exist, I don't make any money. And guess who's being disrupted? Not the agency business, it's the client's business. And what are we doing? We're doing nothing. Right? And we can't do anything because if you optimize only for the consumer and you optimize for the click and you optimize for the campaign, you basically optimize for your destruction. And that is the key thing that we have to recognize, that people are not consumers. The other is we've got to recognize that what people want is godlike power, and companies that give people godlike power. And one of the reasons that Apple and Google have done so well is because they give people godlike power. They let me be all over the world, they let me discover stuff. Just imagine the amazing stuff you can do on your phone with Google Earth, Google Maps, Google Search, right? It's incredible, or Spotify or anything else. But we have to basically sort of recognize that it's broader than that. There's another thing that people want, and I've done a lot of study on this, and there are the following three things. People want to grow. So if you look at the New York Times, the New York Times most navigated way people navigate the New York Times is not the first page, it's the most popular and most emailed page. That's where they go. And if you look at what's most popular and most emailed, at any given time, at least 50% of the stuff is about growth. Getting better health, getting better at something personal, it's all growth. It's not political news, it's not anything else. It's growth, and there's a little bit about, like, celebrities. But those are the two key things that people want. So they want growth. They're looking for connection, and true connection, and they're basically looking for purpose and meaning, which they're really looking for who the hell can I trust. And I think that's the real opportunity. And what is interesting is this. We have become so besotted by data, we have forgotten that people choose with their hearts and then use numbers to justify what they just did. Because if you choose only with numbers, there should be no brand building. We should all wear swatches and buy Toyota Camrys and be done with it. The Toyota Camry is a better car than the Mercedes-Benz, I can tell you that, dollar for dollar. Why are you going to pay 2, 3, 4, 5 times? Why? Data tells me this is a better choice, right? And so what tends to happen is, whenever you basically say the data told me to do this, let me tell you what I'll say, get a job. You've just been outsourced by a spreadsheet. And so what we bring to the machine-based age becomes extremely, extremely important, which is a big, sort of underlying thought. So what are some of the things that we should be thinking about? And I'm going to sort of end with 2 different thoughts. The first one is, let's really, really wonder whether what we've been taught is actually true. I've been doing this for a long time, and I learned marketing from companies like Procter & Gamble. And a lot of what I learned, I began to realize makes no sense anymore. So one was this whole focus on the consumer, and I've just indicated that the thing should be about people. The second was this underlying basic focus on the importance of scale. Scale of spending, scale of distribution, scale of resources. It's interesting to know that the fastest growing cosmetic brand, like Kylie Jenner, has 55 employees. Outsources all of its production to Pure Beauty, outsources all of its e-commerce to Shopify. And its media brand is 120 million Instagram accounts. Right? And now we're basically saying importance of scale. Kylie Jenner beat Unilever, L'Oreal, and Procter & Gamble. And we keep talking about scale. We basically talk about how important all our resources are, but the resources don't matter that much. I think the new scale is not necessarily the scale of networks. I mean, the scale of spending, the scale of distribution, the scale of logistics, but it's the scale of ideas, the scale of networks, the scale of data, and the scale of talent. And my biggest worry is we're driving every talented person out of this industry. Because we basically truly believe that this industry is a non-growth industry. As an industry, we're growing. Companies like myself are having problems, but that's not an industry problem. The industry is actually growing. Because if the future is about empowered consumers, empowered people, and if marketing, according to Kotler, is meeting the requirements of people, and people are more empowered, marketing should matter more. Interestingly, if you just do data-driven stuff, here's what begins to happen. As technology comes more and more, for those of you who may remember, we used to pay at one stage $25 to $35 a trade. Then that went down to $15, $12.95, $5.95. Now you can basically trade stocks for free. Technology and price drives you to free. Free drives you to you and I not having jobs. That simple. So when anybody basically tells me you care a lot for your clients, I say, not that much. I care about my kids more. Right? And so what we have to basically do is talent is leaving the industry, and not just the industry from the advertising or media side, but from the client side. See where all the clients are disappearing to. They're not disappearing into client side or agency side or media side, they're disappearing into technology, lots of other places. So we have to grab back this industry, and as leaders, we have to sort of think about it. I will sort of end with the 3 learnings that I've over the years figured out. And the first one, which is very important, is you have to upgrade your mental operating system. And I would also say you have to upgrade your emotional operating system. And we have forgotten sometimes to do that. So the first thing, the reason why you have to upgrade a mental operating system is I will now make a statement which is not true, but almost true, that no brand has been built in America using television after 2011. I believe brands are built using a combination of word of mouth, superior product and sampling, and then scaled through television. 7 of the 10 largest advertisers in out-of-home are technology companies. Out-of-home will be the last mass media left, and we don't pay attention to it. Right? And so what tends to basically happen is we have to learn to think differently, but we've forgotten how to think differently because we just take the stuff. In this particular presentation, I've not used the following words: personalization, optimization, transformation, disruption. Take those words out from most of your presentations, there's nothing there. It's just those words. Give me something to think about versus just words, right? Which make no sense. So one is and the other is we have to upgrade our emotional operating system. And the most important thing in the emotional operating system is we have to basically sort of understand that there is another point of view, and it ain't just ours. So I built a very strong case. And so I tell people, build a case for the exact opposite of what you think. I can prove to you without a shadow of a doubt that Trump is the greatest American president ever. I hate the guy. Okay, but I can build a case, then I can decide how to hate him. But first I gotta understand why do everybody, not everybody, 35% of the time loves him, right? But if we simply say, they're all idiots, and he's an idiot, that doesn't help, because they'll say, you're idiots too. So you have to think the opposite. So one is, you're gonna think the opposite. One is you gotta invest in learning. A key thing I tell people is spend an hour a day learning. The only way you can upgrade your operating system is learn. And the last thing is recognize this, because we're humans, we don't like to change. So I basically believe that change sucks. And people have sort of heard this from me, and they laugh, but it's actually true. I worked for 2 bosses for 22 years. Literally. Right? A guy called Maurice Lee and a guy called Jack Lewis. And my stuff is the other guys I worked for. I have to stay with Maurice. Okay, 22 years. I've worked for the same company for 37. Now that may be a testament to unemployability, but 37, same place, right? Lived in the same city for 39, and I met my wife 48 years ago when we were 12. I hate change. Change sucks. When somebody tells me it's good, I said, I'm happy you change. Why is it that everybody who says change is good wants you to do it? If it's so good, why don't they do it? They don't do it because it sucks. It's so difficult. But irrelevance is worse, so I have to change. And you can only do that by learning and investing and making mistakes. But as we get senior and people basically have this, all kinds of imposter complex, they refuse to basically try new things because they think people will say they suck. Right? And so then we start using personalization, optimization, disruption, transformation, and things like that. My stuff is, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Once all you string the words together, what does it mean? Data lake, this, what does it mean? I have an advanced degree in mathematics, an MBA from finance. My whole stuff is, I would never ever build a career on the spreadsheet because the machine will beat me. And I know what's coming, which is very important. But you have to work with the machines. Data is important, truth is important, fact is important, etc. So now I will end the last minute or two, and I've been allowed to do this, to do self-promotion. And Marla allowed me to do this because she's seen the product. So a lot of people have basically told me over the years, okay, how did you do what you did? So I took it all down and I wrote it. People who work for me have sent me hate mail saying, we have to work for you to learn this shit and you're giving it away. I'm not giving it away, it's $24.99. Okay? So all of you all who happen to want to, and are interested, go to Amazon because I need to make these algorithms work. And pre-order this book. All you have to do is put in RISHAD. That's all you have to do in the search engine. Click on this. Tell your friends to click on it because that's how this whole thing works. Because I've unfortunately figured out how algorithms work. Algorithms work on single personal orders. They don't work on bulk, they don't work on mass, they work on nothing. Which is kind of interesting. The interesting thing about this book, which is what Marla also noticed, is you can read any chapter in any order. Okay, it's like a Spotify playlist. I'll give you basically 4 chapter headings. How to lead with solve. Everything I've learned about good bosses and bad bosses. And my big insight is all of us have a good and bad boss in us. Good bosses are good bosses most of the time. Bad bosses are bad bosses most of the time. The second one basically is how to upgrade your mental operating system. That's how I managed all these years later to think about that, including the fact that older people apparently don't know how to think. is what I've been told. And my whole stuff is this industry better watch it, because all of us are going to grow old. So we better make it safe, right? And so not knowing how to think. I learned social media when I was 54. So my whole stuff is like, this is ridiculous when people tell me this shit, right? So how do you upgrade your mental operating system? If you're lazy if you're 20, right? Which is a second. A third is too much math, too little meaning. Everything I've learned about extracting meaning from data. I'm pro data, but how do you actually extract it? And then of course, the fun chapter of the third on the table, which is how do you tell truth to power. And the biggest thing we have and best value we can give in our company, whether you're a client, you're an agency, whatever you are, is to actually tell your bosses they suck, right? Not that they suck, but you disagree with them if you disagree with them. Too many people basically look at this piece of shit, which is a turd, and they say it's a cookie. And then you've got Wells Fargo and Boeing and things like that. Thank you.
We said that people want true connections, one of the things that we crave, and at the same time that technology is feeding polarization. So my question is, what is the right and responsibility, if there is a right or responsibility of brands, in making connection?
So there are 4 things the brands need to basically do. The first is if they think about people as people versus as consumers, they will connect them in different ways. That's number 1. Second is recognize that authenticity actually is not a technology thing, it's a physical thing. And brands need to have more people interactions, whether you as a company, etc. So I have this entire thing about why we need to have more meetings versus less, right? The third is you must understand how the technology works and then basically hide it from yourself once in a while. So for instance, I understand how technology works so scarily that I'm so scared of it, I don't use it for hours a day. Okay? So I literally, when I study in the morning, there's no technology, I read books, apparently, and other kinds of things. And so what happens is you have to control yourself. There's a book about this, which one is called Deep Work by Cal Newton, which is on how to think about it. And connection is an analog thing. It's not a digital thing. Digital is a connecting technology, but connection is a human thing. And that's what we've misled. We basically thought that the connecting technology is the people technology.
Do you anticipate, and if you do, what do you expect the 4th connected era to bring?
So I would anticipate the 4th connected era will bring the following 3 things, and we won't be around, but it'll be very interesting to see. So the first is I think there will be increasingly some form of hybrid machine person. They call it singularity, where the machine may take over the person. But what you're going to basically see is the Internet of Things. Increasingly your devices are going to be embedded in you. So if you think about, let's say, the old headphones, and now there are little things in there, they can be put in there. So there's sort of a machine man, machine woman melding is one thing that is likely to basically happen. The second thing that is likely to basically happen is completely new companies and secondary effects that nobody expected will happen. So for instance, the secondary effect of all of us sharing our dog pictures with each other was the election of nationalists all over the world. Nobody expected that, but that's what this technology did. So the idea always is the secondary effects are when you mix 2 amazing things. You mix people with machines, with time, all kinds of weird shit happens. So the whole idea is when everybody believes this is the end of history, no, because it'll always change. And at the same stage, I believe that every major person who you believe is a company that won't go out of business is likely to go out of business. And there are easy predictions. Like for instance, a client asked me, what do you think of Libra when it came out? I said, dead on arrival. It's dead on arrival. Okay? But we can't speak up like that because people are scared. My own stuff is, hey, this is what I think. And I would say this, which is very, very important. As human beings and as strategists, I would ask you at every given time to ask, when you go to a client meeting, or if you're a client, you go to a meeting, ask yourself, are you providing a perspective? Like I just provided a perspective on first, second, and third connected era, right? Are you providing a point of view? And are you providing a provocation? which is, are you making people think differently? I go to meetings, there's no perspective, no point of view. We all gather around data slides, look at the data, read the data slides, and go away. And for that, we have meetings to prepare for a meeting that is worthless. And then we say there's not enough time. It's just ridiculous.
In our last 30 seconds, a favorite tip or quip from the book?
I would say a favorite quip or a story from my book.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take 15, 20 seconds, which is what we
Totally.
got. And Arnold made me tell the story because I said it. So in 1983, and this is a loaded story, and you'll understand why it is. In 1983, I had just got my first evaluation as a media planner, and it was one of the most stellar things that I've ever seen. And my media director had invited me to his office, so I thought he was going to basically put dollars on me and say, "You are God's gift to this earth." He closed the door and he basically said, "Rishad, you're not going to succeed in this career, in this profession." And I said, "Why?" This is 1983, so what you're about to hear might sound like ethnic profiling, but it was not. Okay? He basically said the reason is because you don't know anything about American culture, you never went to school here, you don't know about football, you don't know the stuff. We Americans aren't going to become Indian, you better figure out how to deal with the Americans. And as a result, I'm going to basically send you with my kids to the University of Wisconsin and Michigan. I'm going to evaluate you on the reports you have on Bears and Cubs games, which I'm going to buy tickets for. I'm going to get you into membership of clubs which are all white so you feel comfortable. And he says, if you learn that, you'll be unstoppable, right? But here's what basically happens. When people read that, a lot of people came to me and said, we need to have a conversation with you. I said, yes, they said, we don't want to put it on paper, so it's fine. Because I had people reading the book. They said, I wish people would do that to me. But nobody does, because now it's not safe to talk to anybody. So nobody will tell you where you stand, nobody will tell you how to improve, right? And that is the most amazing thing that's basically happened, is nobody can improve because nobody can tell you anything. Because if people tell me something, I'll think, it's because I'm Indian, it's because I'm short, it's because I wear glasses. How about I'm horrible?